So we are going to be going over some very current news. Today is February 28th. Yesterday, February 20th, an executive order went through to remove Anthropic from all government contracting. This is a huge deal. Anthropic was actually the first AI that was cleared for government contracting. So removing them is a little bit odd, especially with all of the players in the space. But there's a couple things to note with this. One is there's a lot of times I've noticed when these large companies come to the government and they say, "Hey, we're gonna do XYZ, right? We're gonna build the F-22, we're gonna build the SLS, whatever it is." They start off like, for instance, with F-22, that budget was supposed to be 12.6 billion. It bloomed to 26 billion, and then they couldn't stop. It ended up at 66 billion dollars. Same deal with the SLS. Starts off, hey, we want to do this, that, and the other. As of now, it is over $6 billion over budget for what they wanted to do.
Mhm.
For some things in the government, I kind of get that, oh, okay, we've kind of committed to this. So you kind of like have this breadcrumb thing. With a lot of the software and the AI stuff, it's almost like a switch that they're able to turn on and off. But the repercussions of that are huge. So with something like Anthropic, specifically Cog Code, I've seen it all over the place. A lot of my friends are using it. It's incredible for software. But for the government to come in and just bam, pull the plug on it is crazy. Essentially, if you haven't heard the news, Trump meets with the CEO of Anthropic and basically says, "Hey, we want this AI to do what we want it to do. So we need access to your model. We need to set it up in this way. This is what we need for defense contracting." And the CEO said, "No, it doesn't go against, or it goes against our guidelines. So we're not doing that. We're not going to move forward on this." And that tanked the deal. So they had a huge government contracting deal that fell through. And now there's a large vacuum to fill it, which, funny enough, Sam Altman was able to fly in very quickly and
Yeah.
swoop in. And now he's in talks to do that. So I'm very curious with something like this, basically of all these government contractors, and they're a collection of all these smaller companies who are working for them. Now they are rushing to, they have 180 days to remove Anthropic from their workflow completely. So if you are Boeing, you can remove it from your platform, but that also requires that everyone else underneath you have it removed as well, or you could lose a contract or, be in breach of contract for all this sort of stuff. With that type of news, Randall, like what's your gut telling you on this sort of stuff? Like what is happening here?
Dude, actually, I had a conversation recently with so we hired this guy that was a cyber warrior for the military.
Mhm.
He's just all about, hacking and all that crap, right? He ends up buying 4 NVIDIA GPUs, builds his own AI LLM. I have another really good friend who is training one right now to live internal to companies, not based on any other AI LLM, so not Anthropic, not Open, not Gemini, nothing like that. So there are people who are they already saw the writing and they're like, we got to get our own model that can do all this crazy work that's not tied to any of these existing groups. So the first thing I think about is we don't need to be using any of it because if
Really?
Anthropic's a target, OpenAI is either going to be a target for hackers or they're going to be so like run in by the government that we don't want to use a OpenAI. OpenAI doesn't offer you any protections on intellectual property and anything like that. I mean, there's the laws can't protect you from it bouncing to a server in Austria and bouncing to a server in Costa Rica. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm realizing that there is no safe place for AI at this level anymore. The average person's going to be fine. But if you're in defense and you're using AI all the time, to take it out of my workflow, like I use Anthropic
Mhm.
a lot, like to train a new one. Like one, I won't go to Open. I'll tell you that much. I will
Hmm.
not go to OpenAI. So now I'm like, and ChatGPT is no good to me for for what I'm doing, So yeah, I feel like it's now like there's either gonna be a new breed of of home built AI models that are offline, like these 2 guys I'm telling you about, or we're gonna see, man, this might be the beginning of the collapse of this broad reaching AI. But that's just my take on it.
So do you think that we're going to see, because everyone talks about security with AI and it's always a big
Yeah.
topic. Like you said, for most people, security is actually not that big a deal. Like if you're
Hmm.
building all sorts of stuff, for commercial clients, that sort of thing. Obviously, you don't want to get hacked and that sort of thing, but you're talking about one or two small instances of a business getting hacked or ransomware, that sort of stuff. Now,
Yeah.
granted, that's not good. I'm not saying like, yeah, this is okay and you should just ignore security risk, but it's a whole different ball game when you're talking about government contracting and state secrets and that sort of thing. Then it becomes very, very big. Like I
Mhm.
just saw that Anthropic was used by hackers to hack Mexico, the like government of Mexico, and they got everything. Every single driver's license, whatever their equivalent of social security, all that sort of stuff. Like they got it all. And so now like they're having huge issues. So it kind of almost feels like this join them or die sort of feeling where it's like, okay, you got to find someone who can make it secure and build a model that's more secure because you either have the model that can go and hack everyone or it gets hacked, right? Like
Pretty much, yeah.
you're basically that's what you're playing with. So I
Yeah.
wonder, is it even possible for there to be opportunity for smaller companies? And when I say small, I'm saying like even just, 500 plus employees, like that's not a small business, it's a medium-sized
Yeah,
business, that
I
sort
agree.
of thing. But for those people, can they allocate that much resource to building their own AI? And can it one do the job that it needs to do and be secure? Because I think security is becoming more and more and more of a pain point for businesses.
Yeah, the cost of it, if you're a 500 person company, yeah, you can build your own model. The problem is the time it takes to train it and get the right people in place to actually, make it effective. That's really where the rub is going to be. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's just it will take a lot of time to get the model to do what you want it to do. There are people that are running their models right now in Anthropic and Open and all that kind of stuff. And you can so one guy's saying, well, he can train a new model based off of this model,
Mhm.
but it's only like semi-effective because you don't have the actual code running. There are universities that have made really good progress on building AI models. Florida Institute of Technology has some running, and there are other so there are a lot of other people. But I think the problem is like the companies are so unique, and then if you look at security across the board, like okay, I got a model, it's in house, it's secure. When do you miss that one little thing, or that one little patch, or that one piece of code that can get you in a lot of trouble? I think that's where you got to have a lot of money. That's where Open
Mm.
and Anthropic, all these guys, they have the money to actually make a better product or a more secure product. And I think companies in general either won't have the time, the people, um, or the money to all collectively to get it figured out.
To do it in-house.
Yeah, to do it in house. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially big companies. Small companies, I think, can do it for like under 50 people. You're not using AI that much. You're doing proposals. You're doing research. I mean, I write research papers using AI, but like let's be real. AI can't really write the whole thing. You got to prompt it and then read it and then modify it. Like I'm still involved. AI is not really the total solution.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you feel about a company basically saying like, "Nope, we're not gonna work with you anymore, US government. Like, we're not doing it. We're just gonna move on." Like, I don't know, that's a kind of a bold move
Well,
to
you mean the U.S. kicking Anthropic out?
yeah, like, if you were in the room, if you're the CEO of Anthropic, would you have done the same thing, you think? Or do you think you'd be like, "Hey, let's make this work?" Or do you think there's something else going on behind the scenes?
Bro, come on. You know there's something else going on. Nobody goes to a meeting and the government goes, "We're done."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen unless there's something built up. Now, usually there's some with the Trump administration, there's some issue that's truly the issue that is not being talked about on the news. And whether it's a legitimate issue or not doesn't matter because the president can say what he wants to say. But no, I'm looking at the reasons they said these two red lines: no domestic mass surveillance, no autonomous weapons. Yeah, like that's not it. I mean, the government could have done it using Anthropic, already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can do call it mass surveillance. So what is it like medium level surveillance? We're only
Right.
going to surveil half the country. I don't know. I think when you make a deal like that with the government, they put you through FedRAMP and all that kind of stuff. You're giving it to them for the most part. You're not going to tell them how to not use it.
Yeah.
So I think there was something else going on.
I that was my gut too because, like, Palantir is already doing that.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of like, we already have
100%.
that. Both of those things, the 2 things that were mentioned, the
100%.
surveillance and the kill list and those sort of things. Palantir is like, that's their market. That's what they do. So it is odd to me. I'm like, what's going on behind the scenes? I wonder, do you think that the administration was just like, yeah, we've kind of subscribed to like, 5 different AIs and we're paying, $1 billion to each. What if
Mhm.
we just axe one of them because we don't even need it? Do you think that's what's going on? Like, what's your hot take on what's really happening? Because I feel like you're right. I feel like something's happening under the table. It smells weird to me.
I don't think I think there's an issue with the CEO, with, Dario Amade. I
Yeah,
think there's like there's something behind the scenes that's just like somebody doesn't like somebody. That's how I feel. I feel like somebody does not like this guy or, you know, like Hegseth, he's put himself in the forefront of attacking companies and, contract, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Somebody doesn't like somebody. And I hate to make it that simple, but in DoD world, I've seen it where, I'm in the room, another company's in the room, we're all negotiating, and somebody says something that the government doesn't like.
hmm,
All of a sudden the deal goes away.
yeah,
Not because the product was bad or the service was bad. It's just
yeah,
they don't like the person. I mean, I've had government people tell me, "Well, we don't," not that they didn't like me. They didn't say that, but that's what they were. They were like, you're not playing ball with us, so we're just done. We're just done. No more contracts for you." I was like,
yeah,
"Really? You can do that?" They're like, "Yeah, pretty much. If you don't play ball, we're done." So I think there was kind of a history of that with Anthropic, personally. But the bigger picture for me, though, I think getting one of these other 5 to do what they want was all they really needed. They wanted to just, juggle all 5 and see who would say yes to all the crap that they really wanted, which is
hmm,
most likely, if you look at who's the best funded group in the government, it's the CIA. As an individual organization, the CIA is the number 1 funded.
really? I didn't know
CIA,
that.
CIA is more or less a business. Dude, they invested in Facebook through one of their shell companies. They invested in
Really?
these companies. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking that there was something else like that going on. There was like personal and, well, we got somebody else to do what we wanted, so we're good to go. Or
yeah,
the tests are over. Here's how we're going to surveil, Americans, which, they've been doing that forever. I don't know why this is a surprise to anybody. This has been
yeah.
happening
Seriously, anyone who's shocked that the US government isn't their best friend and, keeping everything secure is just like hilarious to me.
pretty
And
much.
yet, like, I'll have friends who are like, yeah, like when I'm talking about stuff, I'm going to put my phone in the other room. And I'm like, dude, you are so tracked. So we do a lot of advertising in our company. And I'm like, the level that I can go to find you and target to you
Mhm.
isn't crazy. And if I have access to that as a nobody, think of what the government has. Like, it's got to be, they know everything about you and they know what you're going to do before you even going to do it. Like,
100%.
yeah, they are tracking everything about you.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
interesting.
AI is old as it goes. I mean, it's people. AI is pretty old. I mean, the
Yeah.
government's been working on these supermodels forever.
Yeah.
And, if you take the census, if you take the mail system, Social Security,
Right.
those 3 alone, you got
Right.
everything,
Yeah.
this is not new.
Right.
Yeah, at all. This is old with a new name.
Yeah. So, bigger question, I think, because something like this affects everyone in defense contracting, Huntsville especially, big hub for this. So, Huntsville, I'm like, everyone in Huntsville is going to be affected by this. Because again, I have so many friends in the defense contracting space, all that sort of stuff. And like a lot of them are using these type of tools. So, I
Mhm,
wonder, again, going back to like the small business angle, we've seen this not just with software, but just across the board in the government. One of my friends just recently got back. He was deployed on the KC-135, so
mhm.
the Strato, what is it? Strato tanker.
Yeah.
It's a plane that has been in service for 60 plus years.
I've flown
It
on it.
isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, so I have friends who have worked on it as crews. I've had actually other friends who are pilots as well, which that's kind
Mhm.
of a terrifying thing to fly. It's just a giant gas station in the sky,
Yeah,
I'm just
bro.
like,
It's hydrogen and all this stuff and fuel, like, you're
oh my
looking
goodness,
around
like,
going,
it takes some gusto to fly those things, so my
yeah.
hat is off to all the, airmen out there, but he was explaining, he was like, "Josh, you have no idea the, like, parts list for these things that constantly break that we're fixing and repairing, and getting the parts is harder and harder and harder," and he was like,
Mhm.
he's like, "Think of a commercial product out there in the world, that's 60 years old that's used daily. I'm not talking about a Toyota, a vintage, Ferrari that's sitting in some dude's garage that gets driven to coffee once a week. I'm talking an F-150 that's 60 years old that still is out there working on the job site. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, that's essentially what we're dealing with, you know? And so I look at things like this parts obsolescence, these softwares, these AIs that are getting swapped back and forth. Like, as a government contractor, small business, how do you identify that opportunity and go, hey, there's something here. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to keep the wheel rolling.
Man, I gotta tell you, this is why I love doing foreign military sales because those countries aren't going through the shenanigans that we are. They are
Interesting.
so like I'm already working overseas. It's they're they're still playing catch up, if you will. But if I'm just trying to do good business and make money, then I'm gonna go do this in other countries. I'm gonna, where I can make the obsolete parts and test them and put them into service, without going through the U.S. government because that's brutal. I mean, I have aircraft parts we're supposed to make sitting on our desk at the office, and the process to make another part is so convoluted. Now, part of it is, yeah, safety. It has to be a good part. But there are tiny companies who can make really good parts
Mhm.
and shouldn't have to be, shouldn't take 10 years and $400,000 to produce a part that's $5,000 just because the government requires it. So, bro, if I see all this, it just affirms what I feel like I was led to do, which was start focusing my efforts on overseas. Anything, anything overseas.
So you think that the US is just the paperwork and regulations are choking it out, and the streamlined process of doing something for the same system overseas is so much more streamlined. Because for a small business, it's speed, right?
Uh-huh.
You can't wait. I had a friend who I was working on a Lockheed contract,
Mhm.
and it took him 7 years to get it paid, to get the contract, to work it, to do it, and to finally, like, win the contract and get the money in, hire the people, all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And it was funny, I remember we were sharing an office, and he comes to me one day in the parking lot, and he was like, I see him every day coming in, and we were completely separate business. We were doing medical or whatever, so we're
Mhm.
always hustling. It's just like every day was something new for us. For
Yeah.
him, it was like 7 years was the same, just like I'm
Right.
sure, that's a generalization, but and one day he goes, "Yeah, Josh, I'm a millionaire." And I was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah." He was like, "We finally like it's through, hiring engineers, like the company's off the ground." And like, yeah, it took me, and I was like, "That's awesome, dude." And he was like, "Yeah, it took me 7 years." I was like, 7 years? I was
Mhm.
like, "Dang, that is rough." Like, you had to wait 7, like, sure, you are now, that's great, but, like, oh my goodness, like, the time involved to make
Right.
something like that happen that long, like, and he was just like, "Yeah, like, all the paper, all the processes, all that sort of stuff, like, it's just what it takes." And I was like, "Dang." So it's just for a small business, I'm like, "That is a hard pill to swallow," at least for me. If you told me like, "Yeah, you're gonna win this contract in 7 years," I'm like, "Dude, like, I'd rather
We'll
do
still be
something
doing that.
else."
You're right, right. I mean,
So
I'll tell you, man, like I don't dislike doing work with the US government because I do a lot of it.
yeah.
However, recently had the epiphany that you're talking about that you know, we put in work on one contract to win one contract for 4 years. And I'm like, man, I don't think I care anymore. I don't, like people get this, illusion of grandeur that it's worth it. I can spend 7 years and it's worth it. But if you look at 7 years, what could you have done with the same brain power, the same small group? What can you do in 7 years? And for less money, dude, I changed everything, man. So our people now are wearing multiple hats. We're doing more biz dev. We're pushing harder. We're getting more creative on what we're doing. And like for me is say we got to make money, but we got to have fun too. We got to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
And I've done my time in the box and I'm over it. And I don't see it as a good way to do business. I don't see how man, I just don't see how you live like that. To say you're a millionaire, dude, I've made millions of dollars. I don't know if I want to make it the same way
Yeah.
again, with as far as government goes. There are people that are having way more fun. Their families are way happier and all that are still making great money. And for me, the focus is really where is it easier at? And overseas is weird because yeah, you got to actually start and get all into it. But you got to meet prime ministers and all this kind of stuff. But
Right.
the good thing is, if you've been doing defense work in America, you can go overseas and have credibility instantly,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just like I think we should do another topic on this on foreign military sales FMS, but like how drastic is the difference? If it takes 4 years to do something for the US government, is it like a year for FMS or is it 6 months? Like how drastic is it?
It's all about connections, man.
Yeah.
With the right connections, you can do stuff in months, a year. With the right, yeah, it's all about connections. I mean, and if you can deal with some of the idiosyncrasies of working with foreign governments and foreign
Yeah.
countries, you can get in and do some really cool stuff. I mean, there are countries that are US adjacent and they don't care about all this. Like, they don't care about the Anthropic deal. They don't care about any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they like American tourism money. They like US aid, all that kind of stuff. There are situations where a company can get in the right position with the foreign government. There this is going to sound crazy. A foreign government can write your company name on a piece of paper, give it to the State Department, and say, "Here's the company that we're going to work with to buy all this or all of that, or to handle whatever broad spectrum stuff we want." They can literally just write it on a piece of paper and turn it in. State
Hmm.
Department verifies it. You go to a couple meetings, whatever, and you're in business. I kid you not. It's very, 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 very simple. There's a lot of gatekeepers, but
Hmm.
there are governments who would love to have an American company representing them and supporting them. I'm not saying go to every country, but there are some good countries out there that would love to have you. It's man, it
I just
really is a
saw
beautiful thing.
I saw a thing with Australia recently. So Australia and New Zealand where the prime minister was talking about, he was like, "Yeah, the economy of Australia is doing very well. We have a lot of exports. We're an export country, especially for rare earth metals and that sort of thing," which is true. And he was like, "But our defense is completely, essentially subbed out to the US. We've just accepted that like we are a almost a satellite of the US at this point because they control the waters, they control the trade, and we don't really have any option there. So if we're going to be hit with these tariffs or whatever it is, we kind of have to roll with that because they're our defense. The US is. But I can see where that would be like difficult for someone like Australia. But in your case, if you're like, hey, your defense is XYZ, you need this stuff, they're already kind of plugged in, right? So they already know like it's got to be someone from the US to do this. And most of our military is US products, right? So, being able to streamline that process, I'm sure is, a lot easier.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I focus on right now countries, so either islands or like South America.
Yeah.
I just found that they have a need, they're willing to pay, and they don't have time to go through all the bull crap. They need stuff like there's a country I'm working with now, they have an issue with drug trafficking and human trafficking in their waters. They're like, "What do we do? I have a solution for you. We're already working on long range drone testing in the US. We'll just bring it over here."
Yeah.
And those long range drones will also patrol your waters while they're
Right.
being testful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is simple for me to say to them. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we can have that." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, they cost you almost nothing compared to airplanes. We can train your people to operate it." N- they're like, "Well, great, okay." You know what I mean?
Problem
Like,
solved. Yeah.
problem solved, yeah, without the drama. I had
Yeah.
one meeting with the government, I'll have another couple of meetings, and then the deal gets done, and, I might walk away with it with the whole military base given to me,
Yeah.
for drone testing. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think American greed keeps American companies trying to take money from purely America, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think the dream that like your buddy that 7 years and I'll be a millionaire, that doesn't make sense to me. That's like going to jail, you know what I mean? It's like, "Go to jail, come out, I'll be a millionaire."
Yeah.
Nah.
Dude, it was similar. I was just like, yeah. I was like, all right, man. I mean, and it didn't. I mean, like I said, we hung out all the time, and I was just like, he did not seem like he was having a good time. Which I'm like, if your whole thing is writing on a 7-year contract getting done,
Mhm.
I'm like, I would be just shaking in my boots every day. One wrong, like contract, and it's like, well, that didn't work. It's
Well,
like,
look at Anthropic, I mean, they could take it away at any time.
right.
I mean, I have an Air Force contract. I'm about to pick up another one that I realize if they ever go to war, the contract's over. So everything I spent
Yeah.
money on, all the work I did, it's over. If those folks get deployed, there's nothing.
Yeah.
What am I, like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? It's insane.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, I would definitely. I think next one we need to follow up on the FMS. I'm very curious about that. I think that's kind of maybe a little bit of a blue ocean strategy for
That's
smaller
beautiful.
companies who
Yes.
don't know that process at all. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting with all of this going down. Like you said, I think there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. But even if the effects are behind the scenes, the impact is very real. So I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
a lot of people in Huntsville are going to be affected by this come Monday. So it's going to be interesting to see the fallout of this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
100%.
appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks.
Trying to get these out every Friday. So if you've tuned in, appreciate it. We got a lot more coming.
Thank y'all.
See ya.